Commander Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the ISS Armstrong, watching the distant flashes of energy weapons tear through the darkness between Mars and Jupiter. The war had finally reached humanity's doorstep, and nobody had bothered to ask Earth's permission. For 3 centuries, the Galactic Council had known about humanity. They'd observed, catalogued, and ultimately dismissed Earth as a backwater planet inhabited by a species barely capable of leaving their own atmosphere. The Council's official designation for humanity was pre-contact primitive, a label that meant humans weren't worth talking to, let alone inviting to the galactic community. But the Zarkothi Empire and the Collective didn't care about Council designations. Their war had consumed 12 sectors, and now their fleets were using the Sol system as a battlefield, treating Earth's home like an empty parking lot. "Sir, we're detecting another wave incoming," Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez reported from her station. "Zarkothi dreadnoughts, at least 40 of them, pursuing a collective carrier group. They'll pass within weapons range of Earth in 14 minutes. Jake clenched his fists. 3 days ago, a stray plasma torpedo had struck a civilian transport heading to the Mars colonies. 200 souls, gone in an instant. Collateral damage. An accident. The aliens hadn't even noticed. "Get me Director Harrison at NORAD," Jake ordered. Within seconds, Director Marcus Harrison's weathered face appeared on the screen. Behind him, Jake could see the organized chaos of the command center buried deep beneath Cheyenne Mountain. "Commander Morrison, tell me you have good news." "Negative, sir. Another engagement heading our way. We can't keep hiding and hoping they'll ignore us." Marcus rubbed his temples. "The Council made it clear, if we interfere in galactic affairs, we'll be classified as hostiles. We don't have the technology to fight either side. With respect, sir, they're already treating us as nothing. At least as hostiles, we'd be something." A moment of silence stretched between them. Finally, Marcus nodded. "Project Prometheus is authorized. God help us all." 12 hours later, the Zarkothi Fleet Commander Vexthor was reviewing tactical displays when his sensor operator made a confused chirping sound. "Commander, the primitive planet, it's launching something." Vexthor's multiple eyes focused on the display with amusement. "The humans? What are they throwing at us, chemical rockets?" His bridge crew chittered with laughter. "Actually, sir. I'm reading multiple launches. Hundreds of them. They're accelerating beyond anything in our database for their technology level." The laughter died. Vexthor watched as primitive Earth suddenly sprouted a forest of launch trails. Every ICBM silo, every nuclear submarine, every strategic bomber, humanity had just emptied its entire arsenal into space. Evasive maneuvers. Those are fusion weapons. But humanity hadn't spent a century developing space warfare doctrine for nothing. The missiles weren't aimed at where the Zarkothi fleet was, they were aimed at where it would be. Every trajectory calculated by the same supercomputers that had guided Apollo 11 to the Moon and Voyager to the stars. The first wave struck the Zarkothi formation like a hammer. Nuclear fire blossomed in the void, primitive, crude, and absolutely devastating at close range. Ships designed to withstand directed energy weapons suddenly found themselves engulfed in multi-megaton explosions. "Impossible!" Vexthor roared as his shields buckled under the assault. "They're pre-contact. They shouldn't even have." His words were cut short as the ISS Armstrong, now revealed as a weapons platform hiding in plain sight, opened fire with the first human-built railgun. The projectile, a simple tungsten rod accelerated to a fraction of light speed, punched through his dreadnought's hull like tissue paper. Across the system, the same scene repeated. Mars orbital stations that were supposedly under construction revealed hidden weapon batteries. Asteroid mining facilities became missile platforms. Even the Moon, humanity's ancient companion, lit up with electromagnetic launchers that had been disguised as scientific research stations. The collective fleet, sensing opportunity, moved to attack the reeling Zarkothi forces. That's when they learned humanity's second lesson: Earth didn't pick sides. Commander Elizabeth Parker, leading a squadron of experimental combat shuttles from Edwards Air Force Base, transmitted on all frequencies, "Attention all foreign vessels. You are in violation of Sol system sovereignty. You have 30 seconds to begin exit burns, or you will be fired upon." The collective commander, assuming this was a bluff, began targeting solutions for Earth. He never completed them. Humanity had spent years studying every scrap of information they could gather about galactic technology. They'd watched, learned, and adapted. Human engineers had looked at energy shields and asked, what happens if we just hit them with more kinetic energy than they can dissipate? The answer, they failed spectacularly. Within 6 hours, both fleets were in full retreat. The Zarkothi had lost 60% of their battle group. The collective had fared worse. And Earth had sustained minimal casualties, having fought an entirely ranged battle using weapons the galaxy had long since abandoned as primitive. The Galactic Council's emergency session was broadcast across 1,000 worlds. High Counselor Thema, a being of pure energy, addressed the assembly with what could only be described as shock. The humans, they've driven back both fleets. With chemical rockets and kinetic weapons. How? Ambassador Carrix of the enlightened world stood. Because we underestimated them. We saw a species that hadn't discovered faster-than-light travel and assumed they were harmless. We forgot that any species capable of splitting the atom and leaving their gravity well is dangerous. We forgot that necessity breeds innovation. They turned their primitive weapons into strategic advantages, another counselor added. While we were fighting with energy weapons that can be shielded against, they hit us with simple mass and velocity. Elegant in its brutality. The Council voted unanimously. Earth would be granted immediate full member status, with an official apology and reparations for the casualties caused by the war. Commander Jake Morrison watched the last of the alien fleets jump to FTL, leaving Sol system behind. His hands were still shaking from the adrenaline. Lieutenant Rodriguez appeared beside him. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. They want to open diplomatic relations." Jake allowed himself a grim smile. "Tell them we'll consider it. After they help us clean up their mess and explain why they thought our home was a good place for target practice." "Yes, sir." "And sir, NORAD is reporting that 17 nations are asking to join the unified Earth Defense Force we just created." Jake nodded, looking at Earth hanging in the darkness below. Humanity had been dismissed as primitive, ignored as irrelevant. In a single day, they'd proven that sometimes the simplest weapons, wielded by a species fighting for survival, were the most dangerous of all. The galaxy had learned an important lesson: never mistake patience for weakness. Never mistake simplicity for stupidity. And never, ever underestimate a species whose first instinct, when faced with the impossible, is to figure out how to punch it in the face. Humanity wasn't primitive. They were just getting started.